Hey.
All right. we got power on here. I got to make sure I got. I think you're on there.
All right.
Make sure that I'm powered up. The power on there.
Oh, look in there.
Thank you guys for joining Tuesday at 7.
Hey.
We gather every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I'm super excited because William G. Krejci is a historian. He's a theater person.
Hey.
He's puts on experiences and a history.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, all historic based. That's history is my jam. So yeah. And what better place than our location today? Oh my gosh. Oh,
we are at Monroe Street Cemetery, and that begs that we're on Monroe Street.
On Monroe Street, yes, indeed. Yeah, or Monroe Avenue today, but yeah, not when it was open. Yeah, Monroe Street originally. Yeah, so.
And Monroe Street, because there's people going to watch this from all over the world.
Oh, we're in Cleveland, Ohio. Yeah, great city of Cleveland, Ohio. We're on the west side of Cleveland. This is the Monroe Street Cemetery. It is the oldest operating cemetery on the west side of Cleveland.
I love that. Yeah. I've gotten some of the behind-the-scenes tour, which we're going to be talking about as we go in. But in case you guys have never joined one of our digital gatherings, what we do is we gather every Tuesday, and we encourage people to share this interview. And last week, if you joined us last week, we were with Puppet Master. I know, and absolutely Puppet Master. And we interviewed Chad of the Chad and Bunny Show.
Oh, yeah.
And it was an exciting, funny time. But if you and you know what, I'm just going to break down the puppet tier. The Puppet Master is Kirk Maynard.
Oh,
I know. He never breaks character, and so I don't know. But if you joined us last week, you would have you've really enjoyed that. But if you shared that interview, your name is in this hat, and we're going to draw the winner for a Chad and Bunny Cup, and then also ball sack. Chad's ball sack.
Oh, yeah.
Ball sack, which is going to the winner. You want to go ahead and pick the winner?
There it is. Okay. Yeah. Not looking. And the winner is
Dr. Dread. You have never won Tuesday at 7, and we are so excited to connect with you. Chad and Bunny are also horror show hosts, and so they're doing that as well.
Oh, there we are.
Super exciting. Yeah. So hang with me just 1 second. But Cleveland, Ohio. Are you born and raised here?
Yeah, I was born here in Cleveland. I was raised in Avon Lake, which is about 20 miles west of here, right along the lake. Moved there when I was about 2 years old. Went to school over there, graduated in 94. Really gives my age away. So over 30 years ago. Yeah, great city to have been raised in. My best friends in the whole world, right there, right within walking distance of my home. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for picking the house that you picked, because my best friends were all right there.
Right there.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is I'm going to come around the side. I'm going to go ahead and take and moderate questions.
Yeah.
We're going to take a tour through the cemetery.
Yes, we are. Oh, my gosh. You guys are going to get so much history, and it's not like, oh, this is this is not snooze material. You are getting chilling tales, some really cool stuff, and some hidden secrets, and a few things that have not yet been shared with the public. So you will be the first ones to get it tonight. Some hidden secrets of Monroe Street Cemetery, just for you guys.
Yeah.
So
for those who have never joined us before, and there's going to be a lot of folks watching this for the first time, there's an arrow in the bottom left-hand side of your screen. If you're watching from Facebook, when you press that arrow, it will prompt you as to how to share that video. We encourage you to share to your friends list, to individuals who you're like, their history, they love Cleveland, they love cemeteries, whatever it is. Share away. When you share, we know. And then next week, we're going to draw a winner. And if your name is drawn, you're going to get a choice of some items from the Tuesday at 7 vaults. And so we're not going to force something. You're going to get some choices. So
you know what we're going to do? How about this? Why don't we give them a copy of my latest book, Forgotten Hauntings of Northeast Ohio. Now, it came out about a year ago, so it's not dated, but the premise of that book, these are stories, ghost stories, mind you, here from Northeast Ohio, including Cleveland, that were reported over 100 years ago. but have not been reported since, not until this book came out. So we'll give you a copy of that, and you can give that away.
And you'll autograph it?
Yeah, and I'll absolutely autograph it. You bet, Roger.
So stick with us. Wait and watch, and like, don't just pass through. Don't just push the fast forward button. If you're watching the recorded version, and then share away. But I'm going to come around. That's going to be the last time
please.
you see
Here
my
we go.
face.
Okay.
And now we're going to go ahead and we're going to
there's the bikers. Hello. All right. Well, here we are, Monroe Street Cemetery. Little bit about it. If you guys want to follow me this way, we'll go right to the entrance.
I'm going to take a wide.
Yeah, and this was not the original entrance, mind you.
Oh.
But here's our Monroe Street Cemetery. Now, this entrance came many years later. The original entrance was down here, and it's 2 stone pillars along the fence. That was our original entryway. A little bit about the cemetery. It was established in January of 1836. So that was when it was established. And it was the old Ohio City Cemetery. It was in 1836. Had 2 guys, Josiah Barber and Richard Lord, set aside this land for a cemetery, which was to be Brooklyn Village. But Brooklyn Village soon after became Ohio City. So it was originally the Brooklyn Village and then Ohio City Cemetery. It then became the West Side Cemetery after Ohio City was absorbed by Cleveland in 1854. And then it was simply known as Monroe Street Cemetery. So if anyone here is familiar with Cleveland, or more specifically downtown Cleveland, say where Progressive Field is, where the Guardians are playing, you'll notice there's a really cool cemetery right across East 9th Street that says Erie Street Cemetery on it. And it's identical to this archway, and that's because they were both built at the same time, designed by the same architect. So why get one when you can get 2 for twice the price? So they built a second one over here to mark the original cemetery for the West Side. Now here's the thing. I just said original cemetery. This is not the original cemetery. There is a cemetery that was older than this. Dates back to at least 1818. And it was over close to where the West Side Market is today. And that was the original cemetery. They closed it when they opened this one in 1836. And then the following year, they moved the graves. Well, they thought they moved the graves. They ended up building a firehouse on top of it. Oh. Yeah, and then they forgot about the cemetery underneath, and then that firehouse burned down, so they built another one on it. And then they went to tear that down in 1904 to build a third firehouse. And when they were digging the cellar, they rediscovered the old cemetery underneath. There were still people buried there. Now, there are some people who were moved here, and I will show you their grave markers as we come to them, quite a few of them, including a veteran of the American Revolution. Now, something that I want to point out as we arrive at the entrance here, one of our little hidden secrets, the gatehouse. Gatehouse is a wonderful structure. It's an office. Down below, we believe there was a crypt at one time. They used to store caskets during the cold winter months when they could not make burials. There were 2 previous vaults for receiving, for holding, until the ground would thaw in the spring. They could start burying people. But I believe there was a basement here one time. We have indications of it. And I believe there was also a crypt down there for a time as well. But what people don't see, a lot of times when they come in, are the king and the queen up there, carved in stone, way upstairs.
I see them. And thanks for pointing that out, because I would have not even looked.
Those are the faces of Monroe Street Cemetery, the king and queen of Monroe, as I call them. There is one other face in here, and it is a statue, and it's the only statue of a person in here. But otherwise, we have a couple little statues of like a little baby or a lamb or what have you, all scattered about. As we make our way in, the very first big monument that we come to is one for Henry Lord Whitman, and we have a nice little wayside marker. He died in 1866. Yes, Whitman Avenue over here on the west side is named for him and his family. So there's that. You will also see some things that say 1841 as a date, and that's because 5 years after they established Monroe Street Cemetery, it had to be retitled because what was going to be Brooklyn Village had been by this point been turned into Ohio City. So it did get retitled.
Now, my wife, Beth Miller, which a lot of folks know, she is, she loves the fact that things are documented.
Oh yeah.
So folks that are just here go, I just want to, I'm going to have a cold brew at the brewery.
Yep.
And then I'm going to read the history.
Yeah.
It's preserved here. Well, and I love the fact that there's QR codes too.
Yes, there are. Yeah, those will take you to our website, MSCF 1841, and that is the site for the Monroe Street Cemetery Foundation, which I'm a proud member of since 2022, and have served on the board since then. So it's a wonderful organization, which is all about the preservation of the cemetery, the restoration, preserving history, and beautification as well. So we have a number of people that are fixing and resetting monuments, planting gardens, planting trees. They hold a big annual fundraiser called Regrow Monroe every year for the foundation. Also a number of events throughout the season. There's a 5K called the Zombie Walk this fall. It's a fantastic, fun event. We also have living history events where some of us dress up as people buried here. There's one that we do for Cleveland History Days during the summer, which is a wonderful living history talking about the history of the place. But then we also do one right before Halloween called Cleveland's Buried History Days, and that's a little bit spookier theme. Now I'll share some of those stories with you this evening as well. So
I can't wait now. Why Monroe? Like, well, why have you spent a good deal of time here? Why do you find yourself very much passionate about this cemetery?
Okay, in my case, I have family buried here.
Okay.
So I do have my great-great-grandparents are buried near the back, and then their daughter, my great-grandma's sister, is buried over here along the fence. So I do have family members laid to rest at the cemetery, but also my grandmother and grandfather lived on the other side of the freeway nearby. And my grandmother would tell me stories about how her family was laid to rest here. And it was unique because most of my family is Roman Catholic on that side, but here they are buried in a public cemetery in Cleveland. So they may have been non-practicing. It's the best guess that I have. But I've always had a small affinity for the cemetery. It's a beautiful burying ground. I was invited to come to some of the meetings by Homer Taft, one of the board members, now emeritus, past president. And I did serve, while he was president, I did serve as vice president, and then I did succeed him as president the following year. So getting involved with this, being able to jump in, start doing the research, finding the stories that had been forgotten for so long, meeting wonderful members like Alan and Lisa, who are the founders. Alan's been documenting the history here for years and has written a number of small pamphlet books on them, which we do sell at a number of our events. And of course, the money that comes from that goes to the foundation, which I should mention is a 501c3 nonprofit.
We tagged that foundation right here. And one of the things that really attracts me is not only the history, not only the stories, but the fact that the foundation uses theater, storytelling, and the arts to help preserve the history of Cleveland. Mm-hmm. Love that.
It's a great way to present history and really draw people in is when you bring it to life. Yeah. It truly is.
All right. Where are we going?
We're going to go right here. This is one of those little secrets that I have not shared with anybody yet, except for a couple people who are members of the foundation. But if you look over here, you'll see that we have a number of family mausoleums, little family crypts throughout the cemetery. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them that are still standing today. We used to have 10. So we are standing at one of them right here, and it was for the Stevenson family. Stevensons were originally laid to rest in a above ground or a small underground tomb down here, and there was an entrance right about where we're standing. And in the 20th century, they pulled out some of the caskets and reburied them next to, but some of them were brought from the lower crypt to the upper crypt, and then it was filled in, and they tore down the entrance. And this is something that I just started digging up yesterday, and I started kicking it around. And this is the original entrance lintel for the entrance to that crypt. They pulled it out and they set it here. So we're going to have this brought up and reset to show for just as a memorial for the Stevenson family. So that's one of them. The other one that I found was right over here. There are two others, one for the Drown family over there, and then one for the Ravers, which we cannot find where the Raver family was laid to rest, and it was only two members. But there was another family vault right over here. This was for the Pelton and Kinney families. It was Brewster and his wife, Thurza Pelton. Thurza Pelton was one of the founders of Oberlin College. Came out here, came west with her husband, Brewster. And around 1850, they ended up coming to Cleveland, where Thurza Pelton was the founder of Cleveland University and something called Sigourney Seminary, which was a women's seminary. If you ever go driving through the Tremont neighborhood of Cleveland over here, you'll notice streets like University, College, Professor, Literary. Those are all named so because that area was supposed to be a huge college campus called Cleveland University. It opened just after 1850, but it closed around 1853. Thurza Pelton, who was one of the founders, she passed away right around then, and the school closed shortly after. It soon after that became Humiston's Cleveland Institute, and a man named Ransom Humiston operated the school there till about 1869, at which time that closed and it came into the hands of the Cleveland Homeopathic Medical College. 1869 was the same year that the Pelton family built a vault right here where the Sperber and the Smythe families are currently laid to rest. There was a huge vault like the one that's over here behind us.
So there was a vault on either side.
There was a vault on either side right here. And it was the entrance to the Pelton family vault. Now, Brewster Pelton and Thurza Pelton, they had established also a very large green space over in Tremont that was supposed to be reserved as the common for the college. It was supposed to be quite large and extend farther west than the one little block where the college was originally located. But it never happened. And when the college was shut down, Brewster Pelton decided that he was going to keep that land and he fenced it off. But for a number of years, it was called Pelton Park. And the city went out and they opened it up and they took down the fence and they changed the name from Pelton Park to Lincoln Park. So if you're familiar with Tremont and you know Lincoln Park right there, beautiful gazebo right in the middle, that's the park in question. The vault that was here was built in 1869, and the first person interred in there was Thurza Pelton, who had died 16 years earlier, around 1853.
Oh.
So where was she buried? It says in the records, University Cemetery. There was a cemetery in Tremont on the grounds of the original Cleveland University. And at least one person, she was buried there. So when it changed hands in 1869, that's when her husband, Brewster, built the vault here and had her interred. And then the rest of the family, as their time came, were laid to rest here. When it was torn down, if I remember right, around the 1920s, some of the family members, at least four of them, ended up going back to Oberlin. And then the rest ended up buried in a vault that says Kinney over at Lakeview Cemetery. So that's where they ended up. And then it was torn down, and then it was resold to the Sperber and the Smythe families. So those are a couple new stories that were just...
Well, thank you for sharing it to our community.
Oh, my pleasure.
And we see there's a whole bunch of people watching live. Thank you for spending some time with us this evening. We want to encourage you to hit the share button on the bottom left-hand side of your screen, because each week we draw a winner, and if your name is drawn next week for sharing, you're going to get an autographed book of
Forgotten Hauntings of Northeast Ohio.
Written by William G. Krejci, pen name, but friends call you Bill.
Yeah, friends call me Bill, but also my legal name too. But yeah, I'll build all my friends, so you guys can call me Bill. Over here, this is the vault for Elias Sims. Elias Sims was responsible for laying out, among all the many things that he had done in his life, a railroad that went from right here in Ohio City, West 58th Street, thereabout, all the way out to the Rocky River. And it was a railroad line to take passengers from Cleveland out to a hotel called the Lake House, later also called the Murch House, out at the northwest end of what's now Lakewood, Ohio. Beautiful big hotel out there That railroad line, by the way, is still there. If you live in Lakewood, anywhere between Clifton and Detroit Avenue, you're crossing over that railroad line. It's still there today. It's now part of Norfolk Southern. So he was the one that laid that railroad out and was responsible for that development of the Clifton Park neighborhood. And of course, we have a wonderful write-up on him, as well as a picture, except that he was not moved to Riverside Cemetery. He was moved to Lakeview Cemetery, we found out. So he and his family are at Lakeview. But that's Mr. Elias Sims. The vault is empty today. The Monroe Street Cemetery Foundation uses it as a storage shed. So we have tools in there, wheelbarrows. We also have all the flags when they're not up during the winter months. This is where we store all the flags for veterans, which we are right now also in the process of redoing our veterans maps as well. And there are a number of veterans' graves in the cemetery that are still not marked. So it's another ongoing project getting them actual grave markers from the VA. Yeah. So that's an ongoing project.
Are there still folks that are being buried here, or they
yes.
have? Yeah.
Yes, there are. So it's not an active cemetery. It was officially closed some years ago, but there are people who have family plots.
Okay. That
occasionally they're being laid to rest here. I believe the last person buried here was just within the last year, and I believe those may have been ashes. But there was a full casket burial in 2020 over towards the back. So there's one little section that still receives burials, and I'll point that out to you as we come to it.
Sounds good.
So, yeah, let's see. So when the Sims family was moved, there were 3 or 4 members that were not moved with the family to Lakeview, and they're buried behind it. So the vault is entirely empty. Let me think. We have, here's an interesting one. Jim Tomey is buried here.
The slugger?
No, not the slugger. The abolitionist. Yes, right. We've got Reverend James Tomey is laid to rest right over here. Wonderful marker. We have a picture of him as well, also on the marker.
I know that story because during one of the Voices of the Past, I had the great blessing to tell.
Yeah,
Reverend James Tomey, his story.
Yeah.
Give us the high level.
Here he is. So let's see. So he was born, according to this, in Augusta, Kentucky. He was very active in the American Anti-Slavery Society. It is believed that he was also a station master on the Underground Railroad, and he was very active with that. But yeah, sadly, though, he did die in 1873, and he is laid to rest here with his wife Anne, also. So, but yeah, we got the whole story here, and it looks like there's a little bit of condition issue with this, so we will have to have that tightened up a little bit. So yeah, we do have James Tomey laid to rest here. We have. I love telling people Jim Tomey's buried here.
Jim Tomey.
It's like the actual slugger were to show up. People are like, what? What are you talking about? No, I'm perfectly fine. Of course, we have a number of veterans from every conflict through, I believe, Vietnam. So, but not after that. We also have a family plot over here, and this is for the Castle family. William Bainbridge Castle was the last mayor of Ohio City. But when Ohio City and Cleveland were merged in 1854, and he's the one that oversaw that, if I remember right, the rule was that he would now become the next mayor of Cleveland by default, by bringing that up. So William B. Castle, and there's an illustration of him, is not buried here anymore. He was moved and reinterred elsewhere. But his father, Jonathan Castle, whose name appears on the memorial, I believe is still buried here. His father was not originally laid to rest here, but was moved along with a number of others from another burial place, the place I had mentioned before, which is a little dangerous to do because he died of cholera. And when you get into cholera, like some other diseases, it stays active in the set of remains long after the person has been buried. So it's possible that they did not move him for that reason, and that he is still buried at the original location, which is where the RTA station is across the street from the West Side Market on that little point of land, which is where Abbey Avenue comes into Lorraine Avenue. It came to a point that was a cemetery. So this might simply be a cenotaph. A cenotaph is like an epitaph, but the person isn't actually buried here. There are quite a few of those. There's another one for someone who was killed in the Civil War. We know that he's not buried here either, but I can show that to you as well.
Now that's a really interesting fact. Cholera, smallpox, like there are reasons why people are like, we cannot move remains.
It gets risky if you do. Curious, up in Detroit, there was a cholera outbreak before the War of 1812, and a number of people were laid to rest in the original cemetery over on the glacis of Fort Shelby. And the mayor, some years later, after the fort was closed, ordered the cemetery to be moved and had neglected the fact that there were people buried there from cholera. So what happens? There's another cholera outbreak in Detroit. Who dies of cholera? The mayor, who ordered the graves moved. So, yeah, some things like cholera, smallpox, sometimes they will just simply like leave people where they are. But over time, of course, those, the remains become perfectly safe to handle. So, but many years have to pass.
Yeah.
Something else unfortunate about cholera is some people may have been buried alive because before you make a full recovery, your body shuts down and you'll end up going into almost like a comatose state.
Oh.
And so imagine the great horror of waking up and realizing that you have been buried alive. It's happened. We know that it's happened. We have some documented cases where people had moved someone who was buried many years later, went to open the casket and found that the person was buried alive.
Clawed and tried to
get out.
Get out.
So I tell people, anytime you're walking through a cemetery, especially the 1849 cholera outbreak, that was terrible. 1 out of every 3 burials each day was from cholera during the summer of 1849. And it's possible that a number of those people were buried alive. So if you're walking through a cemetery that dates back to them, like Monroe Street Cemetery or Erie Street downtown, as you walk through the cemetery, wonder in the back of your head how many people beneath you may have died from cholera and may have been buried alive and may be locked in an eternal scream just a few feet below you that you will never hear. It's food for thought.
Storytelling.
Yeah. Now, I'll direct us over here.
Yeah.
Somebody moved his flag. Why did they move his flag? This is Private Henry Adamy. This flag is supposed to be here 1 foot from... Oh, it's because they were mowing. That's why. Put that into the ground if we can. The ground is very, very hard. There we go. Private Henry Adamy, Jansen's company, the 3rd New York Regiment, served in the American Revolution. Now, he died in March of 1835, which is a whole 9 months before the cemetery was established. He's one of the people that was moved from the original cemetery over by the West Side Market here. With the reduction of regiments during the war, he ended up in the 1st New York, and he served all the way through the very end of the American Revolution. In June of 1883, he received his discharge from General George Washington himself. He ended up moving a little farther west to Western New York, and then in the very early 1830s, he ended up coming west to Cleveland. His wife had passed away. He was living with a daughter and her husband, and they wanted to come here to Cleveland. So they took a steamboat across Lake Erie. It took a few days. The steamboat was called the Uncle Sam, and they arrived in Cleveland. They purchased a cabin that had previously belonged to Major Lorenzo Carter's son Alonzo on the west bank of the flats, right over by where the Cuyahoga steam furnace was located. In there, they operated a tavern and hotel, and it was there that Private Adamy passed away in 1835. And 2 years after he was laid to rest over at the old cemetery by the West Side Market, he was moved here. His original headstone is here behind him. It was broken up into about a dozen pieces It is completely illegible. It was almost entirely buried. So just a couple of years ago, this stone was unveiled and dedicated on Independence Day of 2024. So we had the GAR, the DAR. We had, I mean, everybody was here. It was great. It was absolutely wonderful. Over here, we have not the oldest headstone in the cemetery, but one of the oldest, and it's one of the best preserved. This is the headstone of Mrs. Adeline Tracy Pelton, who died at the age of 22 in 1827. She died in childbirth, and there's a very touching epitaph on here. Her stone, which features they call it the willow and urn motif, was carved, and I have a friend, his name is Gavin Esposito, an incredible upcoming historian, lives out in Hubbard, Ohio, out near Youngstown. The man is brilliant. He is currently studying early tombstone engravers of the Western Reserve. He identified, even though this headstone is 199 years old, whoa, he identified the engraver as a man named James Hindeman. And there are a few other pieces of his work around here, and we tried figuring out what happened to Mr. Hindeman. And he ended up in Pittsburgh around 1830, so he moved back east to Pennsylvania. We're not sure what happened to him after that. But there are other stones very similar to this, including one in Erie Street Cemetery downtown, which also bears an hourglass on it. But the little diamond pattern going around the perimeter and the fans are signatures of his. So, and the willow and urn are also identical. So, yeah, he knows the name of the engraver of this. In fact, Mr. Esposito just portrayed James Hindeman at our last Cleveland History Days event here in the end of June. So it was fantastic.
Tell us the stone, right? Because it is yeah, being one of the oldest stones.
It is. It
is incredibly legible, and yeah, it's beautiful.
It's sandstone, and it's local sandstone. So in the 1820s, we were still using local stone. Best material we can get over here was sandstone, where if you go out east New England, you're finding a lot of slate stones, beautiful dark gray stones. You were using what was local. You get into the 1830s, we start using marble. And that's because marble is becoming available by the 1830s because something had just opened up that we are now able to bring marble here a lot easier. It's the Erie Canal going through upstate New York, bringing anything from New York City up the Hudson, then across upstate New York and onto Lake Erie and right to Cleveland. It's floating, so you don't have to worry about bringing it across land where the roads are absolute terrible and bumpy and you're going to break everything on the way. So instead of using local stone, this is in great shape for being sandstone. A lot of sandstone did not survive. I've got an ancestor, a fifth great grandfather buried down in West Rushville, headstone also sandstone. It's not very legible, and it's broken, and it's in very bad condition.
I would have guessed that the marble would have...
Yeah, but it didn't because of acid rain, and yeah, so the marble did not hold up, but miraculously that sandstone did. And it's, for being 199 years old, it's an incredible condition.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but so after the Erie Canal opened up, we started having marble more readily available. If we go over here behind the Bamonte Memorial, I will show you the oldest headstone in the cemetery. It's going to need to be reset, and that's a plan for the very near future. We're starting to uncover these, and this is a stone of Adam Condy Taylor, and next to it is his, it's under the dirt there, it still needs to be cleared off, is his brother Cornelius Vincent Taylor right here. Adam Condy Taylor died in 1820. This stone is the oldest stone. It's a 206-year-old headstone, and it's still not the oldest in the county. The oldest in the county is Erie Street Cemetery, and that's a stone for Rebecca Carter, who died in 1803. Sadly, a vandal destroyed it recently. They kicked it, it looks like, broke the top off, but the city does have the upper portion, and we are working at having that reset and fixed at some point coming up. There's one fellow in particular who specializes in repairing sandstone monuments. So they're still kind of working with trying to get him to handle that. But the Taylor family, Adam and Cornelius, their father, Charles, and their stepmother, Ursula, are buried here, though they don't have monuments. We're going to have to probe the ground and see what we can find. Charles Taylor was the third person to settle on the west side of the Cuyahoga River after Richard Lord and Josiah Barber. Richard Lord is entombed here. Josiah Barber is laid to rest at Riverside Cemetery. He was also originally buried here, by the best of our estimations.
How much time have you spent researching the history, the people, the markers?
In this cemetery? Yeah. Hundreds of hours, if not a couple thousand easy. I have a lot of downtime, or did during the winter months, and it's a lot of sitting in front of the computer going through to find out about those burial vaults and the Raver Vault, which I can't locate, as well as who we have buried in the vault in the back, which was a big project this spring. I had to read the burial records, the lot records, multiple times, and I had to read the chronological interment records, which start in 1863, about 5 or 6 times to go, which is many pages. I mean, try and picture how many people are laid to rest in this cemetery. It's about 1,000 pages between the two books. So I had to read that numerous times and go through and see all the notes and try and scan to see who's laid to rest in I-91 and I-92 to get the whole story, and then go back and see everything that said family vault. Yeah. So that was a challenge in itself. So at least a couple thousand hours, I would say, I've spent on this, probably, plus walking through and along the way planning out planning out our living history events. That takes some time as well. It's quite involved. The Beverland Monument, there was more to that than what's there. Not sure what happened to it, but there was probably an obelisk on there that got damaged many years ago.
How many, do we know approximately how many
people are laid to rest? Over 30,000, if I remember. 30,000? Over 30,000.
Whoa.
See, it's a gray area where we don't exactly know, because they started burials here in January of 1836, or when the ground thawed at least, that spring. But they didn't start keeping records until about April of 1863. So we've got a good 27 years where there are no records. I did go through and, based on tombstone transcriptions, came up with a list of over 500 people who were buried here according to their headstones, about 30 of which were moved from the original cemetery to this cemetery. So right here, this is a very small vault for Richard Lord. Richard Lord was, and there's a picture of him over there. He was a very small man. No, I'm kidding. It's just the entrance. There is a stairwell that goes down, and the family is laid to rest inside of a crypt that is underground. So there are stairs that go down into that, and it is all sealed off. Richard Lord, along with his brother-in-law, Josiah Barber, were the founders of Ohio City. So you'll see, if you look at the old maps, you'll see a lot of, say, Barber and Lord's allotment. Well, it was pretty much all Barber and Lord. So they were some of the earliest settlers here on the west side, the two of them, and then followed by Charles Taylor, whose house was located on Detroit Street. We do have a photograph of that house on our website, where we have the story of the Taylor family available there as well. Back here along this, we have one of our 2 sections dedicated to veterans of the Civil War. The first section was over by the Grand Army of the Republic Memorial. These 2 back here are a couple more of them. if we look over this way, we have what looks like a whitish gray monument back there. That is, they call it white bronze, or they call them zinkies. It's made of zinc. So they're hollow. If you go up, and there are a few of them over here we can knock on, and you'll hear bung, bung, bung. They're hollow, made out of metal. The large memorial that's immediately to the right of that big zinky over there has the Masonic mark on it, the compass and the square, is for Gaston G. Allen, who was a very prominent Mason here on the west side. He was one of the founders of Bigelow Lodge, which is where his funeral services were held when he passed away in 1908. He was a ship's carpenter by trade. Did serve in the Civil War. Took part in the defenses of Washington against General Jubal Anderson Early. So he served a short term doing that. And meanwhile had sent his family out west to Iowa for their safety. When the war was over, he went and brought them back. They settled for a time in Vermilion, but ultimately came back here to Cleveland. He was married to a woman named Katharina Tiedemann, whose brother, Klaus, has a road named after him out there in Brooklyn. If you're driving along I-480 and you see, ooh, Tiedemann Road. And that's her eldest brother, Klaus. Her middle brother, Ludwig, has a Tiedemann Avenue over in Defiance, Ohio, named for him. And then his the youngest brother does not have a road named after him, but he built a house here in Cleveland called the Franklin Castle, which is regarded today as the most haunted house in Ohio. Fantastic, beautiful stone house, super creepy. I do give tours of it most Thursday nights, and I did live in it for 6 years. And yes, it is very haunted. Very haunted. So very, very, very haunted.
I'm going to take a quick detour.
Yeah, right? Sure, yes.
And the detour that I'd like to explore is talk about Franklin Castle.
Okay.
You talked about other things that you've done, right? And in addition to being a cemetery historian,
yes,
you've done a lot of other things.
Yes, I have. Yeah. In fact, let's start walking this way because we're going to come back around because I'm going to show you a vault back here. But I'm going to share another story over here. Franklin Castle, many people regard it as the most haunted house in Ohio. I moved in 2016, moved out in 2022. I lived there seasonally. During the summer months, I worked up at Put-in Bay as a park ranger for the National Park Service at Perry's Monument. And while working up there, gave me a chance to hone my skills as a historian, start separating fact from fiction, which was very helpful when going after the story of the Franklin Castle. My friend John and I ultimately ended up co-authoring a book on the history of the house. I had started doing the research in 1992. He joined in 2005, so another 12 years later, we actually ended up co-authoring and releasing the book. It's called Haunted Franklin Castle. But there are stories of way beyond the things that go bump in the night. Doors opening and slamming, of course, voices echoing from empty rooms. Lights burn out within a couple of weeks. Things move around on their own. It really does have stories. Phantom footsteps. People report seeing a woman in black and a girl in a white dress in the house. And these apparitions are believed to be the wife and daughter, respectively, of Hannes Tiedemann, named Louise and Emma. So while I did not see either of them during my time there, I did witness the footsteps running up and down the stairs and the giggling and the doors opening and closing and lights flickering and getting very bright, people talking from empty rooms, knocking sounds. It was quite an active house, still remains active to this day. So
for those that are joining us, we have a lot of people joining us live. Thank you for spending your time with us this evening. We are here at Monroe Street Cemetery. I went on a little bit of a detour asking Bill, William G. Krejci, a little bit about some of the other stories, history that he's explored. We're here kind of talking about Monroe Street Cemetery, which is packed full of history. I love the fact that not only are you a historian, but you utilize the art of storytelling, theater to tell the story, to preserve the history and preserve the cemetery at the same time.
There are, well, over 30,000 people buried here. That's over 30,000 stories. Some are simply our great-great-grandparents, or our great-grandmother's sister, or our great-aunt Matilda, or something like that. But some of them are veterans. Some of them are movers and shakers, very early founders. And some of them are no longer buried here, but were once upon a time and had something very tragic happen to them, such as the case of Harriet Alice Haver, whose mother and father are laid to rest right here, John and Julia. What happened was, in 1851, on Halloween, their little girl, Harriet Alice Haver, passed away. She was only, I believe, about 4 years old, 5 years old at the time. And she was buried on November 2nd. At the same time, there was a woman who was buried right over there, a Mrs. Judd, the daughter of Marvin Johnson. They don't give us her first name. Both funerals took place on the same day, November 2nd, 1851. On November 3rd, Mr. Judd and Mr. Johnson came over here to the cemetery in the morning hours to go lay flowers on their wife and daughter's grave. And when they came in here, they found her dress lying on the ground over there by the entrance. They ran over to her burial site. Her grave had been dug up and her body had been stolen, as had Mr. and Mrs. Haver's daughter, Harriet. Her body was stolen as well. Mr. Haver, Mr. Judd, and Mr. Johnson combed the neighborhood, asked a lot of questions of the few neighbors who had settled in this area. There weren't very many houses at the time, few and far between. It was still pretty rural. Nobody had seen or heard anything. Flash forward to the following February of 1852. Someone is going past the cistern behind the outhouses of the Homeopathic Medical College located downtown. They see a human hand floating in the water. It gets pulled out along with a few other sets of remains that have been hastily cut into pieces, and they very quickly tried to bury them, but Mr. Johnson, Marvin Johnson, wanted to examine the remains, and he looked at the hand and saw a J-shaped, hook-shaped scar on the wrist that was identical to the one on his daughter's wrist. Went in there with a hook, started pulling, dragging the cistern. They pulled out more remains. Meanwhile, they're being heckled by students up in the classrooms yelling out the window, "Hey, you guys fishing? You guys get any bites yet? You catch anything?" This enraged them. Obviously, they came back that night with a mob from Ohio City, torches, muskets, you name it, demanding entry to the medical college. Ultimately, they made their way in. They searched the place. They found more remains, started throwing everything out the windows, and the place was ultimately set on fire and burned to the ground. The director of the medical college, wonderful guy, said, "No, we would never do anything like that. We get our cadavers from an institution in southern Ohio. This way, nobody runs a risk of recognizing the person that they might be performing their exam on, their dissection on." So a lot of times when you died and you were friendless, familyless, homeless, or what have you, you ended up becoming a ward of the city. And if they wanted to make some money off your remains, they would sell your remains. So they claimed that they didn't do this. But the remains were definitely those of the two girls who were stolen from here, as well as a few other sets of remains. They were all reburied over at Erie Street Cemetery on East 9th Street downtown. The director of the Plain Dealer, the editor, said something to the effect of, "This was not the good people of Ohio City who would do something like this and burn a school to ground, but rather a bunch of Germans and Irish, both degenerate, drunken races." Lovely. Grand. That is so fantastic. Yes, racism running rampant through the papers back in the 1850s. It was later found out that it was students who had done this independently, came over here in the middle of the night, dug up these two sets of remains, brought them back to the school, secreted them upstairs, had them hidden under their beds so that they could practice on these remains so that they had a better idea what they were doing when they would actually go into the classroom and not go in blindly. Unfortunately, both of the remains were not properly embalmed, and they started to putrefy very quickly. So these guys very quickly and hastily cut up the remains and carried them out to the outhouse and put them down the hole in the privy and disposed of them that way. So
what a story.
Yeah, that is one of the
story.
sad chapters in the history of Monroe Street Cemetery.
I know there's a bunch of folks going, you know, I want to learn more. I want to hear more stories. And one way you could do that is hit the share button at the very bottom. If you share, we know it. And next week we'll draw a winner. And if your name is drawn, you'll get which
copy of Forgotten Hauntings of Northeast Ohio. These are ghost stories primarily reported in newspapers, so ripped from the headlines, as they say, from over 100 years ago and have not been reported since. So while they're not new, they will be new to you. And I'll be more than happy to sign them. This is the burial site of Captain Rufus Sproul. He retired from his life on the lakes to start a horse livery, which is no longer standing but stood on the grounds of the Roush and Lane Carriage Company. It's now a parking lot. But curiously, his son, Charles Sproul, who's laid to rest right here under the stone that says Charlie, right after he got married, he moved into a house right across the street from his father's livery. And he and his wife, their new bed that he had just purchased, was haunted. It started bucking about and tossing about like a boat on the sea. It made all the papers back then. His marital bed was haunted. People started coming up to the house and saying, well, I'll fight the demon in the bed and I'll cure you of your ghost problem. He had friends that came over. They sat on the bed. It started bucking about. They took it apart, moved it to another part of the apartment, and it started doing it again. One friend got up and ran out of there and would never come back. So then he tried to say, okay, no, it's not really haunted, because he was sick of the steady stream of people coming up to his door demanding entry. Turns out he did not believe in any of this, anything at all remotely spiritual. But the man that owned the building, who owned the shop downstairs, absolutely did. He was one of the heads of the Cleveland Lyceum, which was a big spiritualist society. There had been a murder a couple of years earlier where two women, members of the same society, were murdered by the one woman's husband. Before they were laid to rest, the two ladies, their caskets with their remains were put on exhibit in the store downstairs so that the public could see what exactly had happened to these women. That was a few years earlier. Are they connected? Who can say? Otherwise, I can't find any evidence of anyone having died in their apartment. But the poor lady that lived in the back of the building was so terrified she ended up moving out as well. And believe it or not, we have a pirate or two buried at Monroe Street Cemetery. Straight ahead is the vault for the Faulkner family. Maria Keyes, alias Maria Faulkner, in 1858 was accused in the papers of being a pirate. She was ultimately charged with grand larceny. She was arrested 3 times in 5 days on the same charge. The first time she was arrested was with a woman named Mrs. Bell and with her son Isaiah. They were arrested for stealing sundry goods from one warehouse along the flats. Bail was set at $500 each, which she paid cash for. $1,500 in 1858? A lot of money coming out there. 2 days later, she was arrested for stealing casks of gin from the warehouse of Mix and Morris, who were distributors. They had been stealing, apparently, these big casks of gin for a very long time, were draining them of their contents, putting them into smaller bottles and selling them on the sly, filling the barrels with rocks and then rolling them into the Cuyahoga River. Right there by where their little tavern was located on the west bank of the flats. She was arrested. She was charged. Bail set at $1,000, to which she paid cash immediately. 2 days later, she was arrested for having stolen a number of hams and butter from a pork warehouse along the river. Bail was set at $1,500. She paid cash and got out. Eventually, all charges were dropped against her because nobody would testify against her. Sadly, her son died in 1816. We believe he's the first to be laid to rest in the vault. But there are upwards of a dozen people buried in there. Over the years, there was a vast vandalism. Some of the remains were taken out and ended up at a nearby school, Dunbar School. It's very sad what had happened to that. They're in the middle of trying to restore it. So right now they're seeking funding for the restoration of the Faulkner Mausoleum. So if anyone's interested in donating to a wonderful nonprofit, we'd be of course it's tax deductible. They would love to have any assistance we could get at all in the restoration of the Faulkner Mausoleum. Mrs. Faulkner died in 1893. She was 88 years old, lived a grand life. But her and her son Isaiah were both, according to the Cleveland Plain Dealer, dock pirates. Her ring was quite extensive, went all along Lake Erie, believed to have between 200 and 300 members of her ring. Little crime syndicate going on, men and women. It was said that Maria Faulkner would dress up in the attire of a man. Oh, I know, shameless, dressed as an old man, dressed as a young man from the country, dressed as a canal boat operator, whatever. She had a whole wardrobe of costumes, whatever she could wear that would get her access to these warehouses and break her way in. And then sounds like she would hide and then wait for it to close and then go and open it and start stealing stuff out of it. So
Pirates. She
was a regular Jack Shepherd, as one newspaper said, and would make a perfect heroine for any of Ainsworth's novels. We do have a description of her. She had sharp features, very sharp eyes, even an illustration of what she may have looked like. So she is one of the dock pirates who ultimately, got away with it, walked. So by far one of our most colorful characters to take her final rest here at Monroe Street Cemetery. I had mentioned earlier cenotaph, the Scar monument over here. Frederick Scar died at Shiloh, and he is buried at Shiloh. He is not laid to rest here. So what people would see as his epitaph is technically his cenotaph. It just simply says that he lived, he died, how he died, and that he's related to John and Mary Scar. But he is not actually buried here. His parents are, though. So this tells everyone in Cleveland who he was and that he was here. Further testimony to his life. He was only 20 years old. So.
How old?
20.
Whoa.
Yeah. 20 years old. The monument that's over here is for the first Cleveland police officer killed in the line of duty. And there's an illustration of him here as well. This is John Michael Kick. And this monument was placed, I believe, by the Cleveland police, dedicated by fellow Cleveland police officers, city council, and citizens. They dedicated this in 2011, but he also served in the Civil War. And there's Mr. Kick right there. He was killed, first Cleveland officer killed in the line of duty. And he is laid to rest right here on the hillside. So, let me think. So we do have a lot of colorful characters here. And of course, a few more monuments. The single section back here, we do have more veterans buried there. My great-great-grandparents are back there as well. We do have some tree damage, apparently, that came down. So the city does what they can to stay up on mowing, of course. But when we have storms roll through, these are very old trees. We do end up with tree damage, and it takes a little bit to get that taken care of as well. Urban forestry used to work with the city, but now it can be a little difficult getting someone arborist to come out here and take care of what's happened. But it looks like someone's doing something because we have some split logs, which are over here. I'm sorry, I didn't point out over here the area where we still have had a few burials. That's over that way. two more family crypts over here for the Scott family. And the roof of this was just repaired recently, just in the last year or two. Or what?
I think a few years ago when I was here, that roof was had fallen in.
Yeah, it had fallen in. And Mid-State Restoration did the work, if I remember right. They're the ones that did that. And they're the ones that'll probably be doing the work over on the Faulkner Mausoleum as well. And over here is our friend Frankentree. Frankentree is dead, but not in danger of falling over, not in danger of hurting anybody, and not in danger of damaging any monuments. But this is the creepiest tree I've ever seen in my life. Almost looks like something out of a Tim Burton story.
It does.
It looks almost like it was two trees that were married together and grafted, but we don't believe that's the case. We think it was actually girdled, that it might have been falling over, and someone, big wasp there, and somebody had tied something around it to keep it from falling over, and that ultimately ended up killing Frankentree. Well, we call it Frankentree because it looks like they put two trees together. If you stand here, it looks like it's looking at you. It's got an eye there, and then it's got another eye up top. So it's like this weird mutant, or like that thing that comes out of the fire in Poltergeist 2, and they're down in the cave. I don't know. It's just like this weird monster-looking thing. But that is Frankentree.
That is Frankentree.
This is Frankentree. You're gonna try and put Frankentree on a couple of shirts, but that's been one of the thoughts.
Perfect.
So we also have, there was one back there that was fallen over, unfortunately, but we have a tree trunk monument over here, and it's for the Weed family. Wessel Weed, his wife and children are over here, and this is a great example of some of the symbolism we have in the cemetery. Things like ivy wrapping around, cut off branches, the top being cut off, shows the end of the family line. So, but yeah, we did have somebody who was related to the Weed family here at our last Voices from the Past, our Cleveland History Days event, who was sharing the story of the Weed family and a lot of the symbolism, which we talk about on here. Things like a little fungus and little ferns that are down here on the monument. So there's a nice story of symbolism attached to that. This is the monument for Jacob Rausch. Mr. Rausch was a carriage maker. Died in 1863. His son Charles, 17 years old, had to take over the family business of carriage making right over here in Ohio City on West 25th Street, right up the street from us between Monroe and Chatham. And he did pretty well with that company. Not bad for a 17-year-old. Did very well, 1863. 22 years later, in 1885, Charles Rausch took on a partner, a man named Charles Lang, and it became Rausch and Lang Carriages, who 20 years later, in 1905, started making automobiles right here in Cleveland. Electric automobiles. Yeah, the electric car is over 220 years old, and we used to make them right here in Cleveland. Ultimately, the company merged with Baker, and it became Baker LA. Baker was their competitor. And then it just went back to being Baker. Baker is who invented the electric tow motor. So if you know anyone who ever worked in a warehouse and drove a tow motor, electric tow, that's who invented it. Someone who used to drive around a Rausch and Lang quite frequently, Thomas Edison. It was one of his favorite cars. Someone who still drives around one today, Jay Leno. Owns and if you go to the Cleveland History Center, the Crawford Auto and Aviation Museum, they have a couple of Rausch and Langs there as well. But this is where Jacob Rausch is laid to rest, right here at this memorial. But he died right before we started keeping records. So the record we have is his epitaph. We have, what time is it? Do we have time for one more quick story?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I'm not sure.
We're at no clock. Here's Tuesday 7. We break all the rules.
I've lost all track of
or
time.
Make all the rules.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Clue you in on the story of Mr. Mecklenburg. who is laid to rest right over here. Here we are. Henry, or Heinrich Mecklenburg. He died, and Guest is German. That's German. Guest, Geben Guest. You'll see that on a lot of stones here. Guest is 16 November 1895. He is one of the victims of the Central Avenue Viaduct disaster. It was a cold, snowy, misty night, about 7 o'clock in the evening, November of 1895, and the trolley was coming back from downtown back into what's now Tremont, and coming along Central Avenue. From the downtown side, Central Avenue had a big high-level viaduct that's now Carnegie Avenue, right in that area. And it came across and it went into what's now West 14th Street, then called Jennings Street, this big high-level viaduct. There are still stones for it. So if you go over by the Script Cleveland sign over at Sokolowski's Overlook, you'll see stone pillars coming up out of the bottom. That was the approach. Now, it was a high-level viaduct, but it wasn't high enough to let tall masted ships through. So it had in the center, it had a swivel that would open and close, and it would open to allow the ships through, and then it would go back into the closed position to let traffic across, including the trolley car, the streetcar that went across. Well, the bridge was in the open position to allow the passage of a ship going through, and as the trolley's coming in, the lights aren't working, the gate isn't down, nothing is working. There's no lantern, nothing, no one's out there. And at the very last minute, the motorman realizes that the bridge is into the open position, and it's a straight drop right into the Cuyahoga River. He jumps at the last second. He survived. All the other passengers rode the way all the way down into the river. A number of them were killed on impact, and the rest drowned, except for one man, a man named Patrick Looney, Irishman, survived it all the way down and survived getting out. He was a very different man after that, to say the least. But one of the victims, Mr. Henry or Heinrich Mecklenburg, was laid to rest right here. This is where he is. He was one of the victims. There are, I believe, 2 more victims of that disaster that are laid to rest here. Quite a few over at Riverside, and some over on the east side as well. So, yeah.
William.
Yes.
Krejci. Your pen name, your given name. You have how many books?
11. 11 books. 3 of them are mystery novels. Those are the first 3, and those were self-published. But the ones that I've done through Arcadia and History Press, 8. So yeah, that's most of them are ghost stories. Not all of them, though. A Lost Put-in Bay came out a few years ago. Well, it is one big ghost story, but not in the sense that we consider. Plus, I did a co-authorship with Jamie Lynn Owens on Cleveland's Riverside Cemetery, and that's one of the Images of America books that you can see. Those are the ones you see in the store that have the sepia tone cover. Yeah, so mostly photos.
Thank you for your history, for sharing your stories. Not only is it history, it is engaging the way that you share that.
Oh, my pleasure.
And thank you for inviting our community in. What we want to do is make sure that folks remember, if you're just catching the end of it, hit the share button.
Yeah,
share it out to a group, and when you share it, you get an opportunity to win an autographed book. Next week, we'll draw a name, and the winner will get the autographed book.
Yeah.
What should we expect for the remainder of 2026?
Okay, from
Monroe as well as from you.
Let's see. Let's start with Monroe.
Yeah.
Monroe, we have Cleveland's Buried History Days coming up in October, which is going to be a combination of living history, where we stand at the grave sites dressed as the people who are buried there, sharing their story, but it's very family friendly in the sense that also we will be handing out candy because it's also a trick-or-treating. event, and it's during the daytime, and we're sharing history, but making it just that much more appealing to all the families. So kids get to dress up and they do trick-or-treating with the famously interred. There is also going to be a number of cleanups going on. So if anyone wants to volunteer and help out with that, headstone resetting and cleaning. Also, we've got the zombie run, which is our 5K and run and 1 mile walk, or as we call it, a 1 mile stagger. Lurch. We call it the lurch. Or the 1K, 1K lurch, or the 5K run. So, or maybe it is a 1 mile lurch. But it's our lurch, is our walking part. I believe we're doing that down at Clark Field again this year. We did it last year, and it's fun.
Don't forget, Eric said, don't forget about the hearse cruise the first Sunday in October.
Right. So that is coming up. Yes, thank you. Yeah, Eric Barron is one of our guys who coordinates that. So if anyone also has a hearse.
We have hearses.
You have hearses, so please bring them down. Talk to Eric Barron. He will be the person that will be coordinating all of that. So we've had this 2 years. This will be our 3rd year in a row. At the beginning of October, we will be doing the hearse cruising. So, and that's a wonderful event as well. Yeah. People get to see these beautiful machines. Some of them are quite old and historic as well. So that's what we've got going on for this year with the cemetery. If
folks want to keep a pulse on the events, where's the best way for them to find that?
MSCF1841.org. That is our.
We'll attach it. We'll attach that link here, so people can just link to it right from.
That is our. Video. That is the site for the Monroe Street Cemetery Foundation, the 501c3 nonprofit that oversees a lot of the work going on here. We're going to be doing a lot of the restoration work and resetting stones, doing some cleaning, trying to clean up the walkways, because there are a few holes here that need some work on them too. So
and I love those. When you're gathering, it's for a cause, it's for history, and there's a social aspect.
Absolutely.
We head off to the brewery
afterwards when we do one of those events. Yeah, we all regale ourselves over at the brewery. We share some stories over there. Sometimes we head to either Forest City Brewery, where the Monroe Street Cemetery Foundation meets at 6 o'clock on the 2nd Wednesday of every month, and that's open to the public. Everyone is allowed to attend. The more hands, the better. It's a wonderful organization. It's very social. Sometimes we'll go down, after that, we'll go down to the Harbor Inn or Lincoln Park Pub. We got a number of places that we favor over there in the area. But the wonderful thing is it's all volunteer.
Yeah.
Everybody's volunteer. We don't have any paid employees, so we don't hire people. Like we have people that we will contract, but we are an all-volunteer organization. So we do a contract like Midstate, or we like a grant writer or something like that. But yes, it's but we're otherwise all the members are volunteers.
We just got one of your voices for Monroe Street Cemetery Foundation, hashtag Cemetery Wars.
Oh, hashtag! I know who that is. Yeah, that's probably Leslie.
All right, so Leslie, is there a story behind there?
Well, Leslie is currently hosting here for Take a Hike Cleveland on Thursdays. She is leading tours through the cemetery. So you want an even better tour than what I just gave you? Come and see Leslie.
She'll
be here on Thursdays, and that's Take a Hike Cleveland. But Cemetery Wars. So. Monroe Street Cemetery Foundation and Riverside, Jamie over at Riverside, Jamie for. So we're always going back and forth, and so it's a real fun thing that we do, taking pictures of nature or insects or just very random things and hashtag Cemetery Wars. It's a wonderful thing that we do here.
Well, I have got a photo, because on my way in, I've got a photo to tag for Cemetery Wars.
That's right.
And we'll put a little bit of you guys will see what that is.
Yeah.
But most importantly, or as importantly, let's say, what's going on with you, Bill?
Oh, okay. Well, I am working on 2 more books currently. One I'm hoping will be out by next fall. The other one will be out the following winter or near to it. I'm not going to give away any little teasers as to what these are yet. I'm going to be on a nationally syndicated radio show next Monday. I haven't told very many people about that. That's more in the works. Once that's official, I'll talk more on that.
We'll keep that under wraps.
Under wraps. So that's coming up. Of course, more tours at Franklin Castle, Friday Night Frights over at the Franklin Castle, which is a unique ghost hunting experience. People can find information on that either through my website, strangeandspooky.com, strange the letter N, spooky.com, or they can go to the Franklin Castle. Oh yeah, there we are. Well, that's I don't have the website on there, but yeah, just the name of the company. You can just Google it and you'll find the link. Or they can go to thefranklincastle.com, click on the events page, and there's things for that. But the big thing that's just about to be announced, we are hosting bus tours this year, Strange and Spooky Cleveland Tours. I will have 8 dates in September and October, Fridays and Saturdays, depending on the week. We will be making stops at places like, we have got a stop here at Monroe. We've got one over at Erie Street Cemetery. We're going to be starting over at the West Side Market at the cafe. That's our starting spot, so people can enjoy a beverage while they wait before we get going. We'll be at the Harbor Inn and a few other places. Grace Harbor. So, and a couple other little surprises that we have in store. One of the stories you're going to get on that one is it's from our Lost and Forgotten Hauntings catalog that has not been shared yet. So that's a big surprise for everyone on the tour. It's a great story that dates to 1888. And the conclusion will be a wonderful spot that will really surprise you as well. So those tickets will go on sale on our website. We'll have everything posted by next Monday is the goal. So check back on Monday on the website. So the website is not updated yet. It will be by Monday. I promise you that. We will have tickets available for tours and events on Monday.
Yeah,
so.
We're going to close with a comment from Ron Rock. He always joins us and shares away. He says he's driven by here so many times and never realized the stories held within. Thank you for the great history lesson.
Oh, my pleasure, and that's just a small fraction. Come to our Cleveland History Days event in October. You're going to see a lot more people dressed in costumes, of course, sharing these stories from a first-person point of view. It's fantastic. And that one's a very family-friendly event. We don't get too scary with the stories, although I did in the past.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Roger.
We appreciate it. Hey, we'll keep an eye on what you're doing. We'll keep pushing into the Tuesday 7 Facebook group.
Yeah.
What's going on here? Because I've been part of it, and it's done with excellence. So thank you once again.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure.